Welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and today I'm joined by Martha Bruhl from Fog Valley Farm in Middlebury. Martha, thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Caleb. I'm excited
This,
to chat with you.
yeah, this is awesome. Is it true you got the first manufacturing license in Vermont?
That is true. We have number 0001.
Awesome. Now, let me ask you this. Well, usually I do a 5 minute life story, but before then, you might be one of the youngest licensees in the state. Is that accurate?
I believe so. I'm 22 years old. I started Fog Valley Farm right out of college. Um, and as crazy as it's been, I think being so young has been so advantageous for me. I live at home with my parents. I can really rely on them and just kind of do what I need to do without worrying about supporting myself, supporting a family. And if things don't work out, if I decide I want to do something different, I'll only be 24, 25, and it won't be too crazy. So I don't know. It's a definitely as insecure as it makes me feel sometimes, it's definitely an added sense of security when I really think about it.
Sure, sure. And I lived with my parents for a long time, so
Yeah, it's been great.
Um, could we do your 5 minute life story first? I kind of jumped ahead there, but I'd love to hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Texas and we moved up here when I was about 3 years old to Vermont. I've lived here ever since. Right here in New Haven. And I went to UVM out of high school and I studied anthropology. So absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing now. But it was still a really great time. And I've been baking kind of my entire life. I've always enjoyed being in the kitchen, playing around. I joke that my parents never really liked to buy like baked goods at the grocery store, like sweets and things like that. And so it was kind of, if I wanted it, I had to make it myself. And I think that kind of spurred on my sweet tooth, kind of spurred on my baking habits. And it was always just a very therapeutic time for me to bake. You really focus in, you can be creative, you can make what you want, you can explore new things, new flavors, and I love that. And so when I was growing up, when you're a kid, people always ask you, "Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And you give an answer, and my answer was always either a writer or a baker. As you grow up, you kind of realize that there's more to being a baker. If you're going to be a commercial regular baker, you got to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort to make a profit. And I was like, I'm not into early mornings. I'm not going to get up at 5 a.m. to make those fresh, sticky buns. So I kind of let that dream die for a little bit. It was kind of like, I'm just going to do like baking as a hobby and explore other things. And then cannabis became legal in Vermont, and my parents grew a couple plants. And my mom started playing around with edibles to help her sleep. And we kind of started researching, digging into all there is out there about terpenes and the use of THC for medicinal purposes. And we started making edibles, just, your brownies, your everyday typical edibles. And as a joke, I was online shopping for Christmas presents and I found a like Bong Appetit. Have you seen that cookbook?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was hilarious. I was like, this is such a fun cookbook. And so I ordered them as a joke for my mom. And we were looking through those and realized the whole world of possibilities for edibles. It's so much more than just brownies and cookies and whatnot. And that's kind of where the idea for Fog Valley Farm was born. Just, we can make so many fun things. And it could be really great. I think there's a great market here for it in Vermont for small businesses, for craft products, for unique products. And at the time, it was going to be kind of me and my mom, but it's kind of turned into just me, which is great. I mean, they're still there as my sounding board, my advising counsel whenever I have an issue, which is like every day. But sure, you know how it is. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got started, my life story that kind of led up to where I am today.
Let me ask you this, Martha, because you said you're from Texas. Quite a different environment down there, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of cannabis.
Yes. Yes. I wrote a short story about this in high school about how different I think my life would have been had we stayed down there. You really are a product of your environment sometimes, and I think being up here in Vermont has not only changed my family but changed me to a crazy degree. I can't imagine who I'd be had I grown up down there.
Cool, cool. And you mentioned on the phone, I believe, that you weren't really sure how much product you'd be able to make a month, and that you were working with growers to figure out prices and how much you might be able to make. Have you been able to dial that in at all?
A little bit. I'm still in my getting a rhythm phase of production. I started production about a month ago. Um, and it's been tricky for sure. I'm definitely using more flour, like moving through flour faster than I thought I would. Um, which is fine. That's great. It just means I need to think ahead a little bit more, especially, you have your testing time, which takes about, you want 2 weeks in case anything happens at the lab. And then you need to like make the butter, and then you want to get samples to the lab in a bunch. You don't want to be driving up to Burlington every day. And so it just takes a lot of planning. And I think I'm still figuring out the advanced planning time a little bit. Like, when do I need to reach out to growers when I need more? When do I need to have butter ready? How much butter do I need to have ready to make the amount of product that I'm going to need in 3 weeks? And so that's definitely been a trick. I definitely feel like I'm getting there a little bit. And then there's always something new. There's a new strain, a new product. You're running out of one thing, so you're switching into another thing. So it's always kind of a juggle, but I definitely feel a little bit more comfortable. In fact, I'm actually launching a new product in like a week or so, which I'm really excited about. It's our lemon shortbread cookie. I have one
Oh,
here. Um, they are going to also be take and bake. So they're a lemon shortbread cookie. They're going to be called Summertime Jam. I miss summer, as you can tell. And they are a lemon shortbread cookie with little jam spots in the middle. And so that comes back into, you're starting a new product line. You need to plan ahead. How much do I have? In fact, I didn't make quite enough butter for this week, so I'm kind of having to cut down on how much I'm producing. But thankfully, all the retailers I work with, they're incredible. They're super flexible. I mean, I think everyone in the cannabis industry has to be flexible right now. And
absolutely.
so that's definitely been a comfort, that I can kind of do what I need to do to make sure products are good and move towards more consistency in the future.
Could you tell us about the rest of your product line, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 6 ounce
Oh, you got
and
it right there.
4 ounce.
Perfect.
I have them right here. I was so prepared today.
Awesome.
It's not very common. And so in our 6 ounce, we have 8 servings, and in our 4 ounce, we have four little cookie dough balls. Right now, we have the chocolate chip cookies out on the shelf, Grandma Cush's chocolate chip cookies, and they look like this inside the jar. So there's 8 little cookie dough balls, and on the jar, there are tags as to how to bake them. And so you bring them home, preheat your oven to 350, throw them in for 8 to 10 minutes. You can bake one, you can bake all 8 or 4, and you have a fresh baked cookie right there at your house.
Or I could just eat the dough.
They have raw eggs in them, so
Okay.
technically, no, I can't say yes to that, but it's also kind of a consume at your own risk. But again, they have raw eggs, so they're not really safe to eat raw.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Good call on that.
Yeah, for legal purposes, I have to say no.
Yeah, very, very good. You're a sharp customer. All right. I like it, Martha.
So
Um,
yeah, we have our take and bake line right now, and we're hoping to launch ice cream once we get a hood vent in.
that's fun. That seems like something a little bit different than, just like your average edible, which I believe you also mentioned on the phone of sort of, making like an experience rather than just getting people high.
Yes, yeah. I know for me, I don't like smoking, and I also have seen edibles that, we have a chocolate bar right now in our fridge. It is 300 milligrams. I like to take about 2.5. I don't like getting super head high. So like I just like that very low body high that comes with smaller dosages. And so when you get, a cookie or whatever, and it's 200 milligrams, even if it's 50, you're standing there like, okay, I'm going to eat like 4 crumbs and that's it. And like for me, like if I'm going to eat something, I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy the process and not just be worried I'm consuming too much or have to eat just a very small amount, which is why we kind of came up with the small cookies, because then you can eat one 5 milligrams and that's comfortable. It's 5 milligrams. You're not trying to split a cookie in half or quarter or thirds. And then if you're someone who's a little bit more comfortable with eating or wants more milligrams, like 40, then you can eat 5 or 6 and not feel like you just ate a ton of dessert. And so that's kind of where that idea came from. And I think customers are really enjoying it. I mean, kind of the market in Vermont has shaped that experience anyway, with the 5 milligram per serving limit and the 50 milligram cap. So I think that's kind of again, a product of the environment, but something that I think could be really beneficial for new customers as well as regular consumers.
Sure, and I know that really a lot of the concern from the state was about edibles because, and I'll give them that, like, even because I have a very low tolerance, like I've been eating edibles for 20 years, and I still 20 milligrams still does the job. Like
Mm-hmm.
40 will make me uncomfortable on the couch, feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack, and
Yeah.
that's really like, it's not a huge difference from like a if you're like at home just with your buddy, the
Mm-hmm.
difference between 20 and 40 could be half of a bite of a cookie, so
Yes.
that's definitely something, especially with the driving. I think it can be very uncomfortable for me to drive if I've taken too many edibles, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to get behind the wheel if I have.
Yeah.
Hmm. And how about I think you talked about maybe doing private events, which I don't think is allowed right now, but that's
No,
certainly
it's not.
something that I would like to see. And I think for someone like you could be a major boon to your business.
Yeah. No, I've definitely thought a lot about that. And at the moment, I have way too much on my plate. I'm a solo operator. It's just me right now. So I can't handle the demand that I have for my products at the moment. But definitely as my business grows, as I get employees on, and I kind of have a little bit more time to play around and grow the business, I would love to do events at some point. Again, not legal right now, but I think that's something Vermont could work on changing in the legislation as legislators become more comfortable with the cannabis environment and the cannabis industry,
Mm. Like
creating more
weed
space.
weddings, maybe like weedings.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love the idea of like an infused wedding cake. I think that'd be really fun, or even just a dessert bar, where you have a whole bunch of little like 5 milligram bite options that you can play with.
That
Or you
would
go
be
the full way and do like a whole 5 course meal in which the type of cannabis infused goes along with what you've already had, how you're feeling, the time of the night. I think that would be really fun and a great opportunity.
Hmm. Okay, I like it. Yeah. I'd like to ask you a little bit about the application process. How it went for you, if there was any issues, any snags that you got hung up on, anything like that.
Yeah, I feel incredibly fortunate. My process went very smoothly. Um, I my lawyer mainly put together most of my application for me, which I know I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity. I know a lot of people did it by hand, and that's tricky. There's a lot to learn there. So again, I feel very fortunate that I was able to go through him to get that submitted. He knows a lot about the process.
Who'd you go with, Silverman?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
he's right down there.
yeah, super easy to work with, really great. He's always a phone call away. Um, and so for me, the process went very smoothly. I submitted all my paperwork. I did the pre-qualifier, which was a nice security blanket. Like, okay, I'm pre-qualified. That's done. I think the biggest hassle was probably the fingerprinting, the snail mail, getting them to the FBI, getting them back. I don't know why I always get super nervous whenever I get a background check in, even though like I know I haven't done anything. I'm like, what did they uncover? Oh, there's like nothing there.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest hassle in the process. And then just the waiting, the waiting and seeing. But I have heard of other people, especially in the manufacturing industry, who have had a lot of trouble, who can't, they can't find a kitchen space. I've heard like if you had candy or something in your name, that was a no-go.
Two people I know had to change the name of their business.
Yeah. So I feel like those are all snags that I could have had trouble overcoming, but just by luck of the draw, things were working out, and I didn't even know those were issues until I heard about them from other people. So
Well, it
again,
must be
I feel
nice.
very fortunate.
So you didn't have any trouble finding a commercial kitchen either?
No, I
Wow.
I think my security in this entire process has come from how easily everything has come together. Like, I feel like I haven't really had to fight the universe for anything. Now I know that's definitely going to come. I'm terrified for when that day comes and I actually have to figure things out because we've hit a snag. But no, we have a family friend, and it was someone who knows someone who knows someone else, and hey, you're looking for a commercial kitchen space. Oh, I know someone. And that's how that all came together, which was amazing. It's not about like what you know, it's who you know for sure. Um, and
Mhm.
so that all came together very smoothly. I love the people I share the space with, and we have a great relationship. They're also young, and so that's very helpful to have kind of a youthful environment to work in and people who can relate to what you're going through as a young business person.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you really lucked out here, Martha.
I did. I thank the stars every day for how fortunate I am. And I know there's plenty of people out there who want to do what I'm doing, but just it's hard financially. It's hard. They don't know people. There's a lot of barriers that can come in your way that
Absolutely.
are impossible for some people to overcome.
Mm. Now, how about, can I ask you about banking and insurance? I'm curious if you wouldn't mind sharing who you
Yeah.
went with for banking and who you went with for insurance.
Yeah, so I'm working with Cheeseman Insurance in Burlington. Again, I met them through an old boss. I used to work in the restaurant industry, and we were chatting one day at work, and he was like, "Oh, here you go." And he put me on the phone with the president of this insurance company, which was great. Again, who you know is incredible. It can get you really far. And they've been amazing and super responsive. I think I was one of their first like cannabis industry customers, and so I think it was a learning curve for them as well as for me. But again, very responsive. It's nice that they're local. I can be up there if I need to be up there and talk with them when I need to. And then I went with VSECU for banking. And again, I think, again, being very fortunate, things just falling into place. I think I was one of the last applications that they accepted before they put a pause on their cannabis accounts.
Right, right, because they stopped taking accounts. Yeah, that was a few months back, I want to say, but yeah.
Yep.
Were
And
you banking
so
with them previously, like as just a regular human?
yes, over the summer I did farmers markets just to kind of get my name out there, practice, large scale baking with regular baked goods.
Oh,
And
cool.
that was really fun. It was really fun to get out in the community and kind of play around with different products. And so I was had a regular banking account, like a business banking account with them beforehand. And then we set up a meeting to add on a cannabis account. So it
And
was a
that's a
neat
tier
process.
two manufacturer?
Yes, I'm a tier two manufacturer.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And so their
cool.
rates are decent. I know you go other places and they can be really high, which was a big concern, setting up a new business, a startup, managing those fees when production is not in like a full blown scale. And so that's why I really like the percentage base that VSECU has.
Okay, that makes sense. I was gonna say, I know some other people had set up accounts that were really paying bank fees before they could even like get product moving, which seemed like a
Yes.
real kick in the knackers.
Yeah. No, it's tricky. Definitely the financial stability that you need to have as a startup is really shaken by initial fees before you can get product out the door.
Mm. And I'm curious if you could tell me, I feel like we talked about maybe the Department of Health said they weren't going to inspect commercial kitchens. Could you shine a little light on that? Because I'm not really sure where we landed there.
Yeah, I don't believe anything has changed. Mind you, I'm so busy. I have not been able to like go through every new regulation
It's
update as
impossible.
it comes out. It's impossible. But from what I remember is that the health department doesn't really want anything to do with cannabis kitchens. They don't want regular baked goods being produced in the same kitchen as edibles. And they're putting it under the Cannabis Control Board to make sure safe and sanitary practices are happening. And the board does have, for edible makers and manufacturers in general, you do have to follow the safe and sanitary guidelines that are set up by the health department, but they're not inspected by the health department. I
And it
think,
sounded like you were already familiar with a lot of those regulations from working in kitchens previously.
yes, which has been that background knowledge
Oh,
about how to keep a space clean and safe to use. But I do think that's something that's going to change here in the future. I think the health department will start investigating and looking into those kitchens to make sure that they are safe. Um,
well, they
because
should.
it
That's
is just
it.
like it is, and it's just like any other baked good. Like other than the fact that I add in cannabis infused butter, I bake the same way that any other bakery here in Vermont would bake.
Mm. Yeah, and it did seem sort of like I don't want to call it discriminatory, but it certainly seems like they're singling out cannabis business with a lot of extra. And I get it, like the edibles can fuck you up if you eat too many of them. But
Mhm.
you know, if we're gonna say, hey, you're an approved operator with a license, you got to have some level of trust in the people that have been licensed by the state to run a good show. You know,
Yeah.
does that seem fair?
No, that does seem accurate. And again, like we are expected to follow those guidelines set up by the health department. But again, no one is really following through on that. So if it's not happening, chances are slim that someone's going to know. I know the CCB does send out compliance agents. I've had inspections, but there's just so much going on that people can't be there and checking in on a regular basis, which could be harmful. But I feel comfortable in my knowledge and my ability to follow those guidelines. I have faith that other manufacturers are also following them. Just because it's good business practice. You know, you don't want to be making food in a gross kitchen. Like
Right. Someone will find out about that, and
someone's going to find out. You're going to face a problem. Someone's going to get sick. They're going to find something in their food. Um,
and
so
that could be the end of your business right there. Really,
could
if
be.
someone got sick or something like that, you know that
Yeah.
really could take you down. I feel like.
Yes. So I have faith in all the manufacturers here in Vermont that they are, you know, doing everything they can to make sure they're following those guidelines.
Now, have you been in cahoots with any of those guys, like Extract Vermont or any of these folks? Have you guys been in talks, or maybe like been sharing advice with each other?
Not yet. I feel like I've mainly made connections with growers and retailers. I do know Rosie's Confections. We had met a couple of times about a year ago when I first started looking into this process.
They make some
Um,
beautiful stuff.
they do. They're great. And they also have like an amazing production. I've seen it on their Instagram. They have all the fancy equipment that spits out gummies. I'm very jealous, but excited for them. So I do know them, but I met the Tonic guys at a couple of events,
Oh, they're
but they
great guys
haven't,
too.
they're great, yeah. And their product is awesome. Freedom Flower, same. Um, but I feel like we haven't met regularly. You know, it's just kind of keeping up on Instagram and seeing what everyone's doing there. But it would be nice to talk to some people sometimes just because there are things that come up with pricing. Oh, how are you scaling up? All those things that are great when you have people who know what's going on.
Right, and you said you haven't really had time to follow a lot of the board meetings and those kind of proceedings, so
Yeah.
might be helpful to have. Like I know a little group of growers that have like a Discord group going on
Mm-hmm.
where they can just chat amongst themselves and
Yeah,
figure things out without anybody else interfering, you know, and maybe something like that would be helpful for manufacturers in the state.
absolutely. I would love to see that come together. Yeah, I think the community is really what drives the industry here in Vermont, and
Mhm.
everyone has been amazing and welcoming and always happy to talk, which has been great because I came at Fog Valley Farm from a baking standpoint. Cannabis was very new to me. Again, I'm only 22 years old. Um, and
And it
so,
sounds like you're not a heavy user either. It sounds
and
like
I'm not
you
a heavy
use.
user,
Yeah.
no. While I enjoy it, it's not something that I really do all the time. And I feel like I couldn't be functional if I can't be high at work. That's just not it. And so it's been really great to learn and grow alongside all the people in the industry because I think we really need each other and we all have something we can bring to the table and add to the conversation.
Mhm. I agree. And especially like I know a lot of the older folks don't like to listen to young people, but like I think that the full picture is pretty important to get, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that you know young people have a lot they might not be as experienced, but they come to the table with new ideas and different ways of looking at things that I think some of the older guys, quite frankly, should listen to. They can be very stubborn, the old legacy guys, and I
Yeah,
rightfully so, but also you got to be flexible like you said earlier. Everyone's real flexible, and I think you got to take ideas from all directions here.
absolutely.
Hmm. All right, cool. What else we got? You said the CCB held a public panel in Bristol way back when.
Yes.
Yeah, how did that go down? What was the topics of discussion, and what were they doing up there?
Um, it was generally a public information panel, again, set up by Dave and a couple other lawyers around the state just to get more community members in front of the board to be like, how would you like the regulations to be shaped up? And a large part of what I remember coming out of that meeting was that people were really concerned about big corporations coming in and taking over and kind of pushing out all the small businesses here in Vermont who are wanting to get into the cannabis industry. So that was a huge topic of discussion there. Um,
Legitimate concern.
Legitimate concern, but it was also really great because one person I remember saying, it's not about me against you, it's about us against them.
Mm.
And I think that is what is part of the foundation of small businesses here in Vermont, especially in the cannabis industry. Like we all are coming together to support each other because we know, if it becomes federally legal, if the rules change, some big corporation could come in and take over the market and move it in a direction that would be unsustainable for small businesses.
Well, to be fair, they have already bought up all of the medical licenses, which
Mhm.
was which is kind of what dragged me into the story and was super disappointing to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
No,
it
so it's
seems
been,
like, sorry to interrupt you, but it seems like we don't need them here. It seems like we could handle this on our own. We got plenty of really talented growers here. We've got, manufacturers that are making all kinds of interesting products. It doesn't seem like they're needed or wanted in Vermont.
yeah, no, I definitely think with it being so small business focused has allowed for a lot of creativity, which is amazing. You don't have that push to churn out cheap products that can compete with manufacturers coming in, which has been really amazing. If I had to compete with a $3 cookie on the shelves from a corporation that turns out thousands and thousands of products a week, I would not be in business. So I am very grateful that Vermont has set up those safeguards against corporations moving in.
Hmm. Let's hope they hold up.
I hope so too.
Now let me ask you this. I wanted to ask you maybe where we might find your products. What retailers
Absolutely.
you're working with.
Yeah, so I am working with 6 retailers at the moment. There is Ninth State in Ferrisburg. They've been really great. Magic Man in Essex Junction, Graham Central in Montpelier, Sunday Drive in Woodstock, and Pine Grove Organics that just opened in Brandon.
Yeah, that's brand new, huh? I just saw it.
Yes, like 3 days old.
And I was just down at Sunday Drive a few days ago. Boy, beautiful spot they got there.
They have a beautiful store. It is incredible. I'm so excited for them.
Now, boy, I think that was the end of my question list. I did want to ask you, I hate to say this, but I don't normally give 7 Days a lot of credit, but boy, they wrote a really nice fucking story about you, Martha. What was that like to get interviewed by them? Were they better than me or what?
They're all a little different. I've never done like a video podcast style, so I was really nervous about that. I'm going to be honest. Um, it's a little bit more comfortable when you can speak to someone and then they take whatever good comes out of your mouth and like turns it into something rather than like everything being presented to the public.
Oh, you prefer
Um,
that? See, most people
I
hate that because
feel
they don't
bad.
like being quoted out of context. Wow, that's interesting.
That
Huh,
is fair. That's a true point. I didn't think about it from that way, but
huh.
I feel like when I get on kind of like video calls, sometimes my brain comes up with sentences and my mouth is just like, word, can't do that.
I'm
And
with
so
you.
yeah. So this was a little bit more nerve-wracking. Jordan Berry, who wrote the story, she was amazing. We met in Middlebury outside. It was a beautiful day. And it was just nice to just talk with her. And so yeah, we sat down for about an hour and chatted. And then they sent over a photographer to do pictures, which was kind of crazy. I expected, the small town newspaper, they take a picture there at the interview. So it was different to have a photographer actually come out and take
Well,
photos
seven
with me
days is
for
a
the
big city
magazine.
newspaper.
Oh, yes. That was really exciting, and the story was amazing. It
I
was
know. What was it called? Wonder Woman or
Wonder
something?
Woman. Yeah, it was
Awesome.
amazing. I couldn't have been happier with how it turned out, and it was a great piece of like first press to come out about Fog Valley Farm.
I know. I was pissed that they beat me to the punch.
Yeah,
What
they were on top of it.
what was her name again that wrote the story?
Jordan Berry.
They should send her to write more stories because the other two
Yes.
guys. Ugh.
I didn't read too much of what else was going on in there, but yeah, she did a great job. I think she largely does food and lifestyle pieces.
Which is some of their best stuff at 7 Days. The art and the food and things like that.
Yes.
They really do a great job with that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a great piece.
Mm. Well, Martha, that's the end of my question list here. I want to thank you for your time. I always leave the last word for my guests here. If there's anything we missed, if there's anything you'd like to throw in or shameless plugs, this is all you right now. And thank you so much again, and good luck.
Thank you, Caleb. Yeah, I just want people to go out, try our products, leave us a review, follow us on Instagram as a small business. Like every share, every like, every comment is really beneficial to getting seen, and go support all those retailers out there.
Which Instagram is yours? Because there's a couple Fog Valleys. Could you just sort of spell it out for us?
Yeah, so it's Fog Valley. Oh man, this is actually VT. I'm like, do I even know my Instagram handle? It has embarrassing. It has our logo on it. But it's Fog Valley Farm VT.
Boom.
Easy.
Beautiful. Everybody go
Thank you,
support
Caleb.
Martha. Thank you for your time, and I hope you sell all the cookies. I'd really like to try some of those sometime.
Thank you so much. You should go find some.
Peace. This has been great, Martha. Take care.